Hey everybody, welcome back to SJG Perspective. Today I wanted to touch on a little follow-up on the stuff going on in Iran. So I thought we would jump in and do that. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of some of the things the left and the politicians and so on and so forth are saying, and just kind of my thoughts on where we're at right now and where it possibly could go. Before we do that, please don't forget to, if you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit the bell notification because YouTube doesn't like to give us updates. And also follow me on some of the places that will be scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Parler, BitChute, and DLive come to mind. You can follow me all of those on SJG Perspective. But let's jump right in here to the first little thing I wanted to talk about. So man, there's been a lot going on, obviously, with this whole thing, and a lot of talk, and it's been trending. World War III is going to happen, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of things that people are worried about, and I don't know, obviously, what I think that it's serious what's going on, and it is concerning. But before we get too freaked out about it, and I'm just probably what I'm telling myself before I get too freaked out about this. Let's try to take a deep breath and really hope and pray for the best, basically. But I'm going to read a few of these articles that I've set up here just to kind of take us through some more recent things that are happening there and that I find interesting and relevant. And then I'm going to give you some thoughts on what I kind of think is ultimately just some of my thoughts on it. So this first article talks about the processionals and that, like the those who are mourning this Iranian commander who was all admittedly a piece of crap, right? I mean, he's a bad guy. We're going to touch on that a few times. It's not like I think this guy was a good guy and it was so bad that we did what we did necessarily. I do have my doubts about how we did it and my concerns, but what we're reading here is that thousands mourn top Iranian General Soleimani and Iraqi PMF militia deputy commander al-Mohandes in Baghdad. So a lot of people, obviously, there's a lot of protests and going on over there about this. There's a lot of people that liked this guy because he was against the Great White Satan, which is us, accordingly, or according to the Middle Easterns in those parts of the regions in Iran and in Iraq and different parts over there who think that we're the devil. It says massive crowds have gathered in Baghdad for funeral processions for Iran's elite Quds Force leader Qassem Soleimani. Iraqi militia chief Abu Mahdi al-Mondais. Why do they have such freaking annoying ass names? And other people killed in the U.S. drone strike on Friday. Why can't they just be Joes and Johns and Jims? Steve. Mourners and supporters of Major General Salami and al-Mohandes, I'm going to pronounce that name wrong every time, who was the deputy commander of the Popular Mobilization Force, the PMF. We'll just say the PMF. I'll try to remember to say PMF. Are holding photos of both men along with Iraqi's flags and flags of the Shia group Hezbollah. Many are dressed in black and are heard chanting "Death to America." That's never a good thing, but they've been chanting it for decades. They don't like us, never have. And maybe there's some good cause there, but also they're backward-ass people that just, hate us for a lot of different reasons. But Iraqi's Prime Minister Adel Mahdi is also attending the ceremony. He stepped down in November amid mass anti-government protests, but has retained his post in a caretaker capacity. So the Iraq's prime minister is actually taking part in these. Okay, interesting. The procession carrying the caskets of Soleimani and al-Mohandes, which are draped with Iranian and Iraqi flags, and I bet there's only like parts of him in that because he got hit with a freaking drone strike. So I'm sure that it was blowing up into little pieces, which are draped with Iranian and Iraqi flags, respectively, moved from Kadhimiya, a Shia pilgrimage site in Baghdad, to the Green Zone government block for the state funeral. Soleimani's remains are expected to be transported to Iran, where a burial will take place in his hometown, Kerman, on Sunday. Burning the flag, that's great. Both men were killed at Baghdadi's airport as they were about to drive to the Iraqi capital. Washington has said that by killing Soleimani, future Iranian attacks on American military personnel and civilians in Iraq and other places abroad have been prevented. I don't know about that. I wonder about that. That's part of the points that I'm going to touch on later. Has this made us safer? Does this make us safer? I don't know. Time will tell. A little bit later, it said 35 vital U.S. and Israeli targets within Iran's reach for potential revenge for General Soleimani's death, senior IRGC commander has said. Iran reserves a right to avenge the U.S. killing of Major General Qassem Soleimani, with dozens of potential targets already on his list. A senior commander within the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, the IRGC says. Vital American targets in the region have been identified by Iran a long time ago. General Ghulam, God, their names suck, who leads the IRGC in Iran's southern Kerman province, said on Friday evening, as quoted by the Tasnim news agency. The commander did not name any specific targets, but mentioned that the U.S. warships have been operating in the Strait of Hormuz, an important shipping route which connects the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Indian Ocean. And if something happens to one of our ships, if they go that route and they take out one of our ships, then yeah, it's definitely, it's on like Donkey Kong, and then it will be World War III. It'll be a major regional war with Iran, which potentially and in all likelihood then brings in Russia. And then if Russia gets involved, China will get involved. And there's just what's going on in the South China Sea with for the last several years with China, building up these islands out there in the South China Sea and claiming that they're their land. And, we haven't been accepting that. And there's been a lot of tensions there, and we've been very close to a war several times there. So this, if something like this commander says they're going to do something to one of our ships in the, or potentially do something to one of our ships in the Strait of Hormuz, then that's really bad. And then you can expect a lot of really bad things to happen here at home. First and foremost, our oil prices spiking through the roof. Even though we are less energy dependent, and I guess they say zero energy dependent right now, on foreign oil, we still are going to see a massive, massive spike in oil prices. So that is could trigger a whole bunch of problems domestically, just that alone. Abu Hamaz made the comments after Salami, the leader of the IRGC's Quad forces, a special unit tasked with operations abroad. That's interesting how they say that, operations abroad. Operations abroad with paramilitary and, supporting, what's the word I'm looking for here? Proxy attacks and with their proxies attacking Israel and attacking other places. That's when they say paramilitary, that's what they're talking about. So it's not like it's some noble thing that they were doing. And again, I'm not in defense of this dude who got assassinated. I just am like, was this the best way that we did it? This could end up causing us a lot of issues. Says, made the comments after Salami, the leader of the IRGC's Quad forces, a special unit tasked with operations abroad, the proxy wars, was killed in a U.S. drone strike at a Baghdadi airport. He died along with several high-ranking officials from the Iran-backed Iraqi Shia militias, the Popular Mobilization Force, the PMF. Kerman is Soleimani's home province. He is expected to be buried there on Sunday. Some of these articles are just going to reiterate because they come out in successive order. So, anyways. Killing the Quad's leader was the biggest strategic mistake the U.S. has made in its 4 decades of standoff with Iran, Abu Hamaz said, promising Tehran will exact revenge. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif stressed that Iran does not seek tensions in the region. However, the presence of and interference of the foreign and extra-regional forces have caused instability, insecurity, and escalation of tensions. Zarif said during a meeting with his Qatari counterpart, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jasmine Al-Thani. How in the hell is that a dude's name? I mean, that's a sentence. Jeez. In Tehran. They had the most ridiculous names. Officials in Washington say that Salami's death was presented or has prevented major. Officials in Washington say that Salami's death has prevented major terrorist attacks against the U.S. and saved hundreds of American lives. U.S. President Donald Trump has gone as far as calling Salami the number one terrorist in the world, ignoring the fact that the general played a key role in the defeat of Islamic State in Syria and Iraq, which does pose a problem. He's the worst terrorist in the world, yet he helped to eradicate the Islamic State. Again, I'm not giving him props like he's a good guy, but the enemy of our enemy is our friend, and we actually were, in a lot of ways, this Talib Hezbollah, they were part of the forces in Syria that we were supporting. They were part of the militia forces, the rebel fighters that we were supporting, that we were giving arms to in taking out Bashar al-Assad. It's one big convoluted shit show over there. And we need and have needed for a long time to get the F out of there. There is no point in us being there. And we need to get out of there. We need to pull our troops home. And the fact that we're not doing that when we were told that that's what was one of the major things that President Trump was going to do is disappointing. And I'm sorry if that offends my listeners, my subs, my whatever. I'm sorry if that offends you. I am a supporter of Donald Trump for the most part. But when there's something that happens that goes against, number one, what he said he was going to do, and number two is against what we as patriots are saying we want to see happen, which is less war and our troops home and taking care of America first, if we're going to say those things and believe those things, we can't just give our guy a pass when he does stuff that is counterproductive to that. And I'm never going to just be so partisan that I find a way to twist and make it sound okay when I don't feel like it's okay. And again, I don't know. I'm not in those war room meetings. We don't know exactly what's going on. I'm going to get to some of those points later of why I have my doubts either way. But so I don't know, right? But regardless of that, from the simple perspective of outside looking in, this doesn't seem like it was a smart move. It doesn't seem like it helps our situation in reducing tensions and getting our troops out of those areas. It seems like it inflames tensions, and as we're reading here, it's going to become a tit for tat. You do this to us, we do something to you, and it's just going to be escalating. It has the potential just to escalate itself up and up and up until we're in a full-fledged war, a full-fledged confrontation with Iran and whoever else at that point. So if our goal was to simmer the tensions down and get our boys out, why the hell are we doing this? It bothers me. It really bothers me. Doesn't mean I don't support Trump. It doesn't mean that I'm not, a patriot or whatever else. I'm just trying to be honest. And I also am saying I don't truly know. I don't know everything, obviously. We're the peons, making the cogs in the world or in the nation turn by going to work and doing our thing. So we don't really know. But it doesn't make sense. Just from the outside looking in, it doesn't make sense. So then, Iraqi air base housing U.S. troops comes under rocket fire north of Baghdad. That happened today. It says Iraqis Balad Air Base. So they say they got 35 targets that they're targeting. And then all of a sudden we have some pretty innocuous, pretty, inconsequential attacks. No, nobody was killed, right? But Iraqi Balad Air Force Base, which hosts a number of U.S. forces and contractors, has been the subject of a rocket attack. At least 3 unguided projectiles have exploded inside the facility, reportedly causing no casualties yet. The base, located some 40 miles to the north of Baghdad, came under attack late on Saturday. Reuters reported citing security sources. 2 unguided rockets hit the premise of the compound, but caused no casualties among the personnel. It was not immediately clear whether they inflicted any material damage. This incident hit the headlines shortly after 2 explosions hit the Green Zone, the heavily fortified quarter of the Iraqi capital that houses foreign missions and government buildings. One rocket reportedly hit in the vicinity of the U.S. embassy, reportedly damaging the road. Meanwhile, Iraqi Shia paramilitary group Kataib Hezbollah has warned local forces. Now, this is disconcerting. Has warned local forces to steer clear of any U.S. bases or compounds housing American troops. To stay safe, they must remain at least 1 kilometer, almost 1 mile, from such facilities, the group said, implying that further attacks are expected. 35 sites on their agenda. They've already been hit with a couple rocket attacks. The Hezbollah, the Kataib Hezbollah has been telling all their other little cockroaches, stay away from these areas, stay at least 1 kilometer away from any U.S. Forces or any places that have U.S. forces in them. Stay clear of them. So what does that tell us? Not anything good. Kataib Hezbollah, which emerged during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, has been waging anti-U.S. insurgency for years. Currently, however, now here's the part that is interesting. Currently, however, it is part of the PMF, a government-sponsored umbrella organization that united and recognized various militant groups during the Washington-backed campaign against ISIS terrorists. The incidences followed the assassination of the Iranian Quds Force commander, Major General Qassem Soleimani. He was killed in a U.S. airstrike on the outskirts of Baghdad alongside several other high-ranking Iranian and Iraqi military officials. The killing prompted a furious reaction both in Iran and Iraq. Tehran vowed retaliation for Soleimani's death, which it described as an act of international terrorism. The elite IRGC force said that at least 35 vital U.S. and Israeli targets in the region are within its reach for a guaranteed strike. Iraq, meanwhile, accused the U.S. of violating its sovereignty, which it did. Which it basically did. Now, I know there's probably some legalities there that we have. The authorization of use of military force, the AUMF, is how Trump, was the authorization Trump used in the strike on Salami, but we struck at Baghdad's airport. It doesn't look really good and is definitely a little bit of a gray area of the sovereignty. But the military-industrial complex and the deep state and the powers that be in this country that want to take us to war could give a crap less about sovereignty of another nation. Look what we're doing in Syria, where we're guarding Syria's oil bases or oil facilities, some of those. We said we were pulling our troops out of Syria and we just repositioned them to another part of Syria, and we're guarding the oil, their oil. It's not our oil. This isn't a defense of Syria either. It's just that it's their oil, and we violate the sovereignty of other nations all the time. And I don't necessarily think that's a Trump thing. I think that's a deep state thing. I think that's a swamp thing. So anyway, let's see what's more in here. Washington, for its part, insisted that the assassination was defensive in its nature, accusing Salami of being behind the deaths of hundreds of U.S. citizens and alleging he was planning new attacks on the nation's troops across the nation. Well, he may have been, but by killing him, you have pretty much guaranteed there's going to be attacks on our troops across the region. And what is that going to do to us? Then we are going to be forced to respond. And again, it's a tit for tat. It's the domino effect that just keeps growing. Could this lead us into a full-fledged World War III? It has the potential to. Will it? I hopefully doubt it. I have my doubts on whether it will, but it is definitely not necessarily a good thing. This is another article basically about what happened with the rockets being fired at the embassy or in that area. And then this last article was U.S.-led, so this is the last article I read. U.S.-led coalition members suspend Iraq operations as region submerged in outrage over Iranian generals' killing. Members of the international coalition gathered to fight ISIS have suspended operations in Iraq after the targeted assassination of top Iranian general by the U.S. Now this is and this probably has no bearing, and this is probably a dumb thought, but I'm just going to throw it out there. because I have no understanding of this, if this is really what's going on. But it's just a thought I'm having. I wonder if we did this to get us out of Iraq, because the tensions are going to get so bad that we're just going to have to pull out and get everybody out of there. And maybe it was I feel foolish saying this because I don't think this is what's going on, but maybe it was a 4D chess play move where now the outcry and everything else, we take out the worst terrorist in the world, quote unquote, and now we get to have an excuse to get our troops out of there. Or the flip side of that is we did this as saying it was a defensive move, knowing that there's going to be a vengeful reprisal, and in doing so, it's going to give us the impetus, or it's going to give us the cause then to retaliate again, only stronger this time. And one thing that President Trump won't be outdone, and won't let his ego be affected or be hit too hard. So if he starts, and here's what's probably going to happen: if we get reprised, then there's going to be people saying, "Are you just going to let him get away with that? You're not just going to let him get away with that, are you? You better do so. You can't just let him get away with that." So it raises a whole bunch of things that are just worrisome. As we have been talking about this and going through this, or since this has happened, you have the Ilhan Omars of the world, you have the AOCs, the Rashid Tlaibs, the Democratic candidates, all the left-wing pundits, all the celebrities coming out and falling down at the feet of Iran and saying, "We're so sorry, we didn't want to do this. Trump is so terrible for doing this." Meanwhile, they're fairly silent on all of the drone strikes and what Obama did, right? They're fairly silent on all that. But here's what I feel about all of these left-wing turds. They can just they can shut up. They can STFU. They lost all credibility. Everything Trump has ever done is a bad thing to them. They see no good in him. He can never do any good. They hate him. So they're excited when he makes a misstep. If he's made a misstep, they get excited about it, because it's a way for them to throw something at him and to have something in the news cycle to try to pull down and go against Trump in every single way. I am not in support of us doing anything that gets us closer to war, gets us anywhere closer to sending more troops. We're sending more troops into Syria, or not into Syria. There's 3,500 troops or something like that are headed there right now. We sent 750 for the embassy, and there's we're sending more troops. There's a buildup right now that's happening, which is not a good thing, right? But all of these candidates and whatnot, even though some of the things that they're saying right now, I can actually agree with, but I've consistently been saying those the whole time. They didn't come out and say that crap when we were screwing with Venezuela and going into there, right? All these the left-wing media was pushing it and was saying this is a good thing. When we were doing our stuff in Syria, they were all for it, most of them. They all think it's all good. So they have no credibility in my mind. I almost think that they're secretly happy if this turns into a bigger confrontation in the Middle East. If it would harm Trump, if it would harm Trump's reelection. They don't care if we have to get in innocent blood is going to be spilt from our boys and our women and civilians over there. They don't really care about that. They're going to stand on those graves and pretend like they do, but they would love something to happen that was a miscalculation or a mistake that can be capitalized against Trump. I don't want that. I don't necessarily think this was a great thing that we did, and I'm not in full on support of it. And it's not because I think Salami was a good guy. He was definitely a bad guy. I get it. He probably deserved to die. But could we have gotten congressional approval to do this? Maybe. But would that have screwed up the element of surprise? Probably. And could the plans to assassinate Salami have been kept under wraps? Doubtful. If they would have taken this to the Congress and gotten congressional approval, there are so many congressmen that hate him, and there's so many leaks coming out of Congress. I guarantee you that would have been leaked out, that the element of surprise would have been gone and would have been done on this. Having said that, is this what we needed to do? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sitting in there. But here's the other thing. Does this assassination actually make us safer? That really remains to be seen. And as it's looking right now, it kind of doesn't. And the problem I'm having with all this is if we had a government we could trust, it'd be a different thing. It would be a different conversation we're having right now, right? If we had a government that told us the truth, then that doesn't lie to us all the time, if we didn't have a military, a deep state military that wants war, that loves war, that wants, always is looking for war. Look what happens to the, look what happened to the defense contractors, stock prices, like, I can't even think of them right now, but all of these, if you go on and you look at like Lockheed Martin or Boeing, or I don't know about Boeing, but some of these different defense contractors that provide arms to our government, their stocks skyrocketed. Not skyrocketed, but they went up after this strike happened, because they're like, oh, good, good. We're gonna get war. We're gonna be able to get into battle and kill people in war. That's all they want. That is all they want. And then my problem is that our governments lied to us. They lied to us about Libya. They lied to us about Syria. They lied to us about Venezuela. They lied to us about Iraq. They lied to us about Afghanistan. Said that we were getting progress in Afghanistan, and we didn't really. There wasn't progress going on in Afghanistan. I don't think they can be trusted. I don't think the military-industrial complex and the swamp and the deep state can be trusted. You call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to. I don't. I really do not care. I personally believe they will lie to the president. This is the other thing. I believe there is people around the president that will lie to him in order to have him do things he said he wasn't going to do. At least I want to believe that is what is happening, instead of him actually lying to us and telling us he didn't want to do these things when we got him elected, and now he's in there and he's doing them anyways. Or it just really shows you how deep the machine runs, and it doesn't matter who's sitting in the presidential seat. The gears of war are going to turn regardless. And false flags happen, guys. False flags attack are a real thing. They're not relegated solely to the tinfoil hat conspiracy mobs any longer. They're an actual tactic used by governments to gain the support of their people in enacting secret agendas. False flag attacks happen, and we are sitting in a ripe and ready position to have false flags attack happening in this scenario. Will this lead to World War III? I really hope not. And I doubt this move alone, us killing of Soleimani, will do that. Though anything is possible right now, and this does not help in calming tensions that have already been on the rise over there. So you guys know where I stand on this, and I'm sorry if you just want to. I think we need to listen to that innate voice inside of us, that quiet voice that is like, oh, that doesn't sit right. President Trump is not going to do everything perfect. He is a man. He is not God, okay? I support him, and I believe in him, and I want to see him do well. But he is still a man who is surrounded by other fallen men and other evil men that are corrupt, dishonest people that want bunch of, just want war, just want this different crap to happen. So it's not like he's infallible. And we can't have the mentality about him. And we have to have the mentality we have to be consistent. I want to always be consistent in what I'm saying and what I'm believing and what I'm speaking as much as possible. And me, obviously, I'm a fallen man. I'm a human being. So I don't see it all. But when something is wrong and it doesn't seem right, we need to speak up against it. We need to raise our voice. And even if it's our guy that did something wrong, we got to be consistent. I'm going to try to be consistent as I can. And if that bothers some of my subs or some of the people that watch my channel, I'm sorry. I'm not just going to sit here and always say that Trump's right in everything he does. But I'm also going to say I wonder why some of the things he's doing at times, and how much of that is him and how much of that is bad information given him to get him to do something the bad people want done. Anyway, I appreciate you guys sticking around. I appreciate you guys watching this. Please comment if you made it all the way through. Again, for the 4 or 5 people that made it through my last one all the way through, props to you. I'm writing you guys a little song that I'm hopefully going to do when I'm done with this video and get it up. It's just going to be a stupid song, but it's just to show the love for my supporters that got through my last video, because it was a long one and I ramble and I was snotting all over the place. So props to you. Anyways, until next time, it's SJG Perspective without fear or animus. looking forward to doing. I think I might do a stream later, so stick around. Tune in. Keep an eye on your phone. I'll probably do a stream later this evening or afternoon, and let's just pray that this doesn't get totally out of control because we do not need another major war. Nobody needs that. All right. So until next time, it's SJG Perspective. We'll talk to you later. Bye.